Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RDX Sports Podcast. I'm Simon Head, and the UFC's Octagon heads onto our side of the pond. It's been a long time coming, but the UFC is going to be on our doorstep. We're here in the UK recording this in the southeast of England, and just over the English Channel, across there in Paris, France, we will see UFC Fight Night with a huge middleweight bout in the main event over there at the Accor Arena in Bercy in Paris. Nassourdine Imavov, ranked second in the UFC middleweight division, will take on 7th ranked Caio Borralho in a bout that could propel the winner into a championship fight against the new middleweight champion of the world, Khamzat Chimaev. It's a big fight in a division where there's a lot of change happening right now. Dricus du Plessis was the long reigning champion at the top of that weight class. He's been well and truly dethroned by Khamzat Chimaev. We now have 4 contenders at the top of that division, all vying for contention. We have Imavov versus Borralho, who are going to face off this weekend in a 5-round middleweight main event in Paris. And then in Vancouver in a couple of weeks' time, Reinier de Ridder will take on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez in a battle between the other 2 major players in this middleweight title shake-up. And I think it's like a mini tournament almost, where the 2 winners, whoever has the best performance, is likely to be the one moving on to challenge Khamzat Chimaev for the belt. Whether it be later this year or early next year, we will see. But Chimaev said he wants to get back in there quite quickly. So let's see how this all plays out. But the advantage will be with the winner of this particular event, I feel, because if they do want to get Chimaev back into circulation quickly, getting a fight out of the way nice and early as possible to give a little bit of turnaround time for the winner would make a lot more sense. If it ends up being the winner of the de Ridder Hernandez fight, a tight turnaround is going to be tricky for them. Imavov and Borralho fight this weekend. If there's a fight night in, let's say October or November, it'll be tight, but it'll be doable. So we'll see how it all plays out. But this is a really, really tight main event to call. I was doing a betting preview for one of my other clients this week, and the thing I wrote was, it is tougher to pick than a broken nose. We've got 2 guys, both in great form, both approaching the peak of their fighting career, and both sort of realistically and legitimately feeling that they could be the best test for Khamzat Chimaev. They're probably the 2 most well-rounded contenders in the division right now. The other 2 gentlemen that we just mentioned, de Ridder and Hernandez, I would say are a little more grapple heavy in their approach. I think Imavov and Borralho have a more well-rounded skill set. I think their striking is a little bit more well-rounded, and they've both got the ability to finish the fight on the mat as well. This is going to be a big one though, and Borralho's got the better record on paper. He's 17-1 versus Imavov's 16-4. But if you take a look at the strength of schedule, particularly towards the most the last 2-3 fights, I think that side falls on Nassourdine Imavov. I think he's had the more impressive body of work recently. So we'll see how it all shakes out as the fight progresses. But I think home advantage is going to be huge in this fight. I really do. Fighting in front of that Paris crowd. I don't know if many of you out there are professional wrestling fans, but the WWE has been in Paris this past weekend, and the crowds for those events have been absolutely off the hook. I'm expecting something very similar. Actually, Morgan Charrier was in the crowd this weekend, and they gave him a little bit of screen time, which was nice to see. But yeah, the French crowd are going to be something special. They've had to wait a long time before they could get mixed martial arts legalized in the country, and they have a really passionate fan base for MMA and obviously for pro wrestling. We saw that this weekend, but for MMA, we've seen it with UFC. We've seen it in particular with the PFL, who have really done a good job in setting a marker down in France, and it's become almost like their go-to country right now in Europe. I remember Bellator used to find Dublin, Ireland on a regular basis as being their main go-to place in terms of somewhere where they could always put on a show. It looks great on TV. The crowd are always up for it. The atmosphere is always spectacular. Excuse me. It's exactly the same in Paris, France for the PFL, and it will be exactly the same here for the UFC. And they've got a French fighter in the main event. You can't ask for any better than that if you're a French UFC fan. And Imavov has really put himself into position to be the top guy in the division. He was ranked number 1 up until the point that du Plessis lost his title, and then du Plessis was dropped down to number 1 Imavov bumped down to number 2. But if we're looking at the top contenders right now, Imavov is the guy at the top of that list. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Majority decision over Roman Dolidze, who is a very difficult man to beat. Jared Cannonier, former title challenger, stopped him in the 4th round with strikes. Brendan Allen outworked him, and he's a relentless contender in the division. He's got a great gas tank, pushes the pace on fighters. Beat him on the scorecards, unanimous decision. And in his most recent appearance in February this year, knocks out Israel Adesanya 30 seconds into the 2nd round. Absolutely huge statement-making win for Nassourdine Imavov, who I think after that performance, people were starting to finally take him seriously as a contender rather than being just one of a group in a pack who maybe might get a title shot eventually. But that fight really elevated his stock, I think, and put him in the elite category at 185 pounds. Looking to join him and stealing his thunder a little bit is the natural Caio Borralho, the most senior member and the most senior fighting member of the Fighting Nerds gym out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. The first member of that team to make it into the UFC, did so through the Contender Series, needed 2 attempts to do it. First fight didn't really win over Dana White. Told him to come back and have another go. He came back like a week or 2 later, I think. Up a weight class, did the business and impressed. Got the call into the UFC, and he hasn't looked back ever since. The only fight he's ever lost in mixed martial arts was, I believe, his 2nd professional fight. That was it. That's back in 2015. So he hasn't lost a fight in over a decade. And he's got some decent names on his record. Just looking down his Tapology list here. Arman Petrosian, he outworked him for a decision. Mahmoud Muradov, who super talented fighter now in Octagon in the Czech Republic, beat him on the scorecards as well. Chokes out Mikhail Alexichuk, who ironically is now part of the Fighting Nerds team. The Polish striker who is now rounding out his game as part of the collective down there in Sao Paulo. He decisions Abus Magomedov, knocks out Paul Craig, decisions Jared Cannonier, and here he is getting ready to take on Nassourdine Imavov. As I say, 17-1 as a professional, solid everywhere, great fight IQ, and a very, very dangerous guy to beat, and a very difficult guy to beat, as his record would obviously suggest. But I think the crowd, and I think the slight size advantage of Nassourdine Imavov could potentially be the difference maker in this fight. I really like Borralho as a contender, and I think arguably he might be the toughest test for Khamzat Chimaev at the top of the weight class. But I think in this particular matchup, I think Imavov might just have that X factor that just takes him over a little bit. I think the crowd is going to be crazy on Saturday night. Imavov will be super confident, having come off the back of that incredible finish of one of the best strikers on the planet, and doing it with strikes. He'll be absolutely at the top of his game, buoyed by the crowd, and I think if he pushes the pace on Borralho early and can keep the fight standing, I think he has the power to get the job done. As I say, we have no real tape of Caio Borralho getting beat up because he's very, very, very good. And even the fights that have gone to a decision, he's been a relatively clear winner in each of those fights in the UFC. So we haven't seen him deal with a huge amount of adversity because he hasn't faced too much of it. He's just been very, very good, very, very solid. Imavov has been through a little bit of adversity in his career. He's lost 4 times. He got outpointed by Phil Hawes. He got outpointed by Sean Strickland. He had a no contest with Chris Curtis. And he had a couple of losses earlier in his career before he joined the UFC. So he has had to deal with a couple of speed bumps along the way. But I think he's in the prime of his career. I think even though his win streak is shorter than Caio Borralho, I feel like his momentum might be bigger just on the basis of we've got those 4 wins: Roman Dolidze, Jared Cannonier, Brendan Allen, Israel Adesanya, all legit contenders at 185 pounds. And 2 of those, one of them a title challenger and the other one a long reigning champion, as was 2-time champion actually. He knocked both of them out. So to be able to sit there and know that he's put those 2 guys in particular away, I don't think there's going to be a lot for him to fear going into a fight with Caio Borralho. I think the worst thing that could happen to Imavov in this fight is that he probably gets outpointed and outworked on the ground potentially. But Imavov has looked good on the ground as well. So I just think that if he keeps it standing, I think he could win this relatively comfortably. If it goes into more of a grindy sort of wrestling, grapple heavy match, then it gets a lot closer. So we'll see how it all pans out on Saturday night. It's a great main event at Paris at the Accor Arena. There's going to be an absolutely packed house for that show. But that main event should be a cracker. And if either one of them can get a finish, then it's going to be very hard to deny them a shot at Khamzat Chimaev later this year. There is French interest in the co-main event as well at £155 as the God of War, Benoit Saint-Denis, returns to action on home soil as he takes on Mauricio Rufy of Brazil. This is a great matchup at £155. It really is. You take a look at the relative form of the two men. I think it just has all the ingredients for a spectacular matchup. You take a look at Benoit Saint-Denis' record. He lost to Renato Moicano in Paris the last time he fought on home soil. He will be desperate to get back into the win column in front of his hometown fans. He took on Kyle Prepelec in a short notice fight. He was supposed to be facing Joel Alvarez of Spain in what would have been a really tough matchup. That fight fell through very late in fight week, if I remember rightly. Prepelec steps in on very short notice, and Benoit Saint-Denis did what good veteran fighters do. He just adapted, got the job done. Second round arm triangle choke submission, took his record to 14 wins, 3 losses, and that snapped a 2-fight skid. Of course, he does have those 2 losses. Renato Moicano, Dustin Poirier, both in 2024. Got knocked out by Dustin Poirier in a fight that, he just went all guns blazing at the very start of that fight, ran out of gas and got stopped. Renato Moicano was a doctor's stoppage due to an eye injury. He certainly wanted to continue, but those nasty elbows from Renato Moicano proved to be decisive in that fight. But he bounced back, as I say, and he will be desperate to get a win on home soil to erase the memory of what happened against Moicano back in September 2024. So 1 year on almost, he will be looking to right that wrong. And he's got a difficult Brazilian opponent again, but a very different one. Moicano obviously was more of a grappler. Mauricio Rufy, super dangerous opponent. He's looked absolutely brilliant since he joined the UFC. Came through Dana White's Contender Series. His overall career record is 12-1. 11 of those 12 wins have come by way of knockout. And he's been perfect in the UFC since he's got here. Defeating Jamie Malarkey, first round knockout. James Yontop via decision in an absolute war. And then King Green with one of the knockouts of 2025. Spectacular spinning wheel kick. Got the job done just 2 and a bit minutes into the first round of that fight. Now he's being moved up in class. If he can get past Benoit Saint-Denis, we're talking title contender for Mauricio Rufy. If Benoit Saint-Denis can turn back Mauricio Rufy, then he gets himself a shot at somebody in the top 5, I would imagine. So there's some high stakes in this lightweight bout in the co-main event. Should be an absolute barn burner. You got Benoit Saint-Denis, who just loves to just walk forward and turn it into an absolute dogfight. You got Mauricio Rufy, who he's almost got that Conor McGregor-esque stance, very upright kickboxing stance, very sort of long-bladed stance, good rangy kicks. But the thing with him is he doesn't put his shots together very often. He likes to throw spectacular one-shot combinations. Well, they're not combinations if it's one shot, but you know what I mean. He likes to throw individual shots, looking to get that one-shot knockout, and that's where that nickname one shot came from. If he could start putting combinations together, I think he could be absolutely lethal at £155. He's got this almost point fighty style in terms of the way he bounces around and throws individual shots. But he can finish people. We have seen this. He's got spectacular techniques in his locker. Can he do it against Benoit Saint-Denis? I think he can. It's just whether Benoit will allow him the space to work. If Saint-Denis knows what's good for him here, he will close the distance and will completely shut down any space for Mauricio Rufy to work and have him fighting in a phone box for the entire fight. If he can do that, Benoit Saint-Denis has all the tools to win this fight, either on the scorecards or maybe on the mat with some ground and pound or maybe a late submission. So it's a fascinating matchup, real clash of styles between two guys who both always bring the entertainment, always bring the action, but in very, very different ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one pans out at £155. That is your co-main event at UFC Paris. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Mauricio Rufy. All right, let's take a look at some of the other fights on the main card at UFC Paris. Belgium's Borralho 10-2, taking on Mason Jones, the former 2-division Cage Warriors world champion, who is never in a bad fight. I can't see how this fight isn't going to be an absolute banger. Fought at £155. Jones can fight at 170 or 155. He's at his best at £155 for sure. And he'll face a willing dance partner in Borralho from Belgium this weekend. That should be an absolute cracker of a matchup. If we're talking about clash of styles in the co-main event, we've got a real clash of styles at £205. Modestas Bukauskas, the former Cage Warriors light heavyweight champion, back in the UFC for a second stint and doing incredibly well in his second stint, taking on Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, who had a move down to middleweight. Things did not go his way. He moved back up to light heavyweight, took on Rodolfo Bellato last time out. Illegal up kick, catches Bellato. Controversial finish to that fight in that there was no arguing there was an illegal up kick, but there was much debate over just how much it affected Rodolfo Bellato. And there were accusations, not from Paul Craig, by the way, but accusations that Bellato had flopped, as they say in America, or taken a bit of a dive, as they say in the UK, and attempted to get Craig disqualified. The fight was eventually rendered a no contest because it was ruled an accidental foul, I believe. So it means that Craig is still looking for that bounce back win. He's on a bit of a losing streak from his time at middleweight. Now he's back at light heavy, where he is definitely at his best. And it's a real striker versus grappler matchup, this one. Bukauskas, big, strong, rangy kickboxer, comes out the same gym of Tom Aspinall, Mick Parkin, Ante Delija, who we will talk about in a minute. Got some big, strong boys in that training camp, and he will be well prepared, I'm sure, that he's done a lot of grappling on the mat with the likes of Tom Aspinall under the guide of Andy Aspinall, his head coach, good jiu-jitsu coach. That'll be an interesting one because we know what Paul Craig does. Paul Craig wins fights off his back. He triangles you out of nowhere. But he's got the ability to win fights with submissions all over the place. If the fight stays standing, he has stand-up skills, but they're not in the same realm as Modestas Bukauskas, who has the ability to shut your lights out with one shot. So it's a real floor is lava fight if you're Modestas Bukauskas. If you're Paul Craig, you don't want to be standing in front of the England-based Lithuanian for just, for more than he absolutely has to. I think he needs to kind of goad him in a little bit, get him to overcommit, get the fight to the mat, and then go to work. We've seen him do it so many times in the past. He's going to need to rediscover that winning formula once again. For Modestas, as I say, floor is lava, right? He's got to keep the fight standing. He's got to land big shots. And if he keeps the fight at range and can land with that rangy kick of his, he's got great body kicks and head kicks. And then maybe step in when Craig's backed up against the fence and start to unload his fists. But we'll see. We will see. I think that is the path to victory for Modestas. Paul Craig, we know exactly what he needs to do. So where does the fight take place? If it takes place standing, you know who the favourite is. If it takes place on the mat, you know who the favourite is. So we'll see how that one goes. £205. Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Two absolutely top blokes as well, by the way. I've had the pleasure of interviewing both of them over the years, and two top class individuals. And it'll be a shame to see one of them lose, really, because they're both sort of really good guys. But I think if you're Paul Craig, you really could do with a win here, having had those 3 defeats, I think it was, at middleweight, moving back up to light heavy, having that unfortunate no contest, which at the end of the day, for all of the controversy over Bellato's reaction, it was a mistake and a foul from Craig that basically caused it all to happen. So I think he knows he needs a big performance this weekend. So we'll see whether he can produce that. Modestas, he's on a great run. If he can get himself another win, then he's on his way up towards some of the bigger names in the division. Paul Craig, someone who has a win over the current world champion, let's not forget. So if he can get a win over Paul Craig, that could only help build his stock in the light heavyweight division. But that will be a cracker at £205. Modestas Bukauskas, the Baltic Gladiator, versus the Bear Jew, Paul Craig. All right, we have the opening bout on the main card, and I cannot believe that a fight of this caliber is opening up the main card on a UFC Fight Night event. This is incredible. Patricio Pitbull, the greatest fighter in Bellator history, the most decorated champion in Bellator history, taking on UFC debutant, former two-division Octagon MMA champion, Lausanne Keita from Belgium. The Black Panther will make his UFC debut on Saturday night in France, not far from home soil in Belgium, as he takes on an absolute legend of the game in Patricio Pitbull. It is a huge, huge fight for both men for very, very different reasons. Patricio Pitbull, in being given this fight, is almost like the UFC saying, okay, pal, you're a gatekeeper at this point, because he hasn't been able to really make his mark in the featherweight division in the way that he wants to. He's got to face Lausanne Keita, who is an absolute force of nature at 145 pounds. We have had a win for Patricio Pitbull. He got the win over Dan Ige, but he really does need to build some momentum. We haven't had those spectacular crushing finishes that we've seen from him in Bellator. He's got to start to stack wins now in arguably the most talent-stacked weight class in the UFC. Lausanne Keita 16-1, and the only reason why he has a 1 next to his name was because he basically broke his leg during a fight. So that's the only blemish on his fight record. He's looked outstanding. He's got a big personality. He's great fun to watch fight. Is he the best featherweight in the world? I would say he isn't right now. What he is, he's certainly one of the more dangerous featherweights in the world. He's all pressure, heavy hands. He will put himself in harm's way to land damaging strikes of his own. That makes him a real fan favourite as a fighter. He's got, as I say, big personality. I think if he beats Patricio Pitbull this weekend, there will be a lot of enthusiasm for this man, just because I don't think the American market knows too much about Lausanne Keita just yet. Only the hardcores will have actually watched this guy fight. And those that have seen him know that he is a serious talent and a lot of fun to watch. Parachuting him straight into a fight with Patricio Pitbull on his UFC debut is absolutely incredible. But the one thing Keita has never been short of is confidence. He will be stepping into that cage 100% confident and certain that he is the better fighter on Saturday night. No matter what Pitbull has achieved during his career, there'll be respect there for sure. But Lausanne Keita will go in there looking to not just beat Patricio Pitbull, but to finish him and make a real statement on his UFC debut. This is the fight I'm most excited about on this fight card. I really am. I'm a big fan of Patricio Pitbull. I've been following him in his career for years, and you know, he's done everything in Bellator, and he's an absolute, you know, he's just a great example of someone who's just been consistent throughout their whole career and has just kept plugging away, works his way into position to win titles, has won the belts, and has been able to defend them repeatedly over and over again. His chance in the UFC has come relatively late in his career, so maybe he's just on the wrong side of his peak right now, but he's still more than capable of competing at 145 pounds. That first UFC fight for him, whether it's octagon nerves or what you want to call it, that was not the real Patricio Pitbull. We saw a little bit more from him against Dan Ige, but I think we're going to need to see even more still against Lausanne Keita. If you're looking for more from Patricio Pitbull, you're going to be very happy with the fact that he's got Lausanne Keita, because this is not a man who's going to make himself difficult to find in the octagon. Lausanne Keita will hunt down Patricio Pitbull and look to throw big strikes. Pitbull won't have to go looking. He'll have Keita right in front of him. So that will give Pitbull more opportunities. We might get to see Pitbull land some of his own spectacular striking as well. Wouldn't be surprised if someone gets knocked out in this fight. I really wouldn't. Both of them are more than capable of knocking out the other one. I'm very, very excited to see how Lausanne Keita does. I think that, as I say, they could strap the rocket ship to him if he gets past Patricio Pitbull, and he might only be one fight away from challenging for a title. That's how good he is. Unlike Aaron Pico, who came into the UFC with a lot of hype, but also with the knowledge that, you know, people who'd followed his career knew that there were weaknesses in his game in terms of his punch resistance and the fact he'd been knocked out very badly before. Cater hasn't really shown those weaknesses. He got wobbled by Agi Sadari wobbled him in the Tip Sport Game Changer, but he got through it. He worked his way through it. He's never been knocked out. He's never been finished other than by a broken leg. So he won't count that as a legitimate defeat insofar as, you know, something that was a shortcoming of his. So we'll see how he goes. As I say, 16-1, super confident, 2-division champion, octagon, featherweight and lightweight. And we'll see how he goes against Patricio Pitbull. That is going to be a fight to watch. And that, as things stand, I don't know if they're going to rejig the fight card, but I've just checked UFC.com, and yes, it is true. Patricio Pitbull versus Losine Cater is the curtain jerker on the main card of UFC Paris, which is crazy. That looks like a co-main event fight to me, if you're asking me. But there you go. Great fight to kick off the main card. The reason why that is the main card opener is we have another fight on the main card that immediately follows. France's Axel Soler will take on Rhys McKee at welterweight. Axel Soler 10-0-1 in his professional mixed martial arts career. Amateur standout, now making his way in the pros, doing very, very well so far. Now he's in the UFC, he's fighting on home soil, and he's taking on a former Cage Warriors champion in the form of Rhys Skeletor McKee, who I understand has a new contract freshly signed and will look to celebrate that fact with a victory over Axel Soler this weekend at 170 pounds. That is your main card, and it is, given that this is a UFC Fight Night show, if you're a European fight fan, there's loads here. If you're a fight fan from the States, there's a lot here to get interested in. Patricio Pitbull versus Losine Cater is a certified banger at 145 pounds. That would be a co-main event. And maybe a main event anywhere else other than the UFC for sure. It'd certainly be a co-main event for most fight nights. Yes, I think it's just that people don't know who Losine Cater is yet. After Saturday, I suspect you probably will. Axel Soler versus Rhys McKee. This is a chance for Axel Soler to really announce himself on the world stage. Rhys McKee, super respected, former Cage Warriors champion, looking to start a new chapter in his career in the UFC, and a very dangerous man all over the mat, whether it be standing or in the grappling exchanges. You got Belgium's Balaji Oki taking on Mason Jones in a fight that, if it isn't in the running for fight of the night, I will be absolutely gobsmacked. That is at 155 pounds. Then you've got Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig, striker versus grappler. This should be an absolute cracker as well. 205 pounds, real styles clash. And in the light heavyweight division. Then we've got the co-main event at lightweight. 13th ranked Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Mauricio Rufy, who is looking to gate crash not just the rankings, but perhaps even the championship picture. If he gets through Benoit Saint-Denis in spectacular fashion, he could get the rocket ship treatment as well. So look out for him on Saturday night, taking on local hero Benoit Saint-Denis. And another French star is set for action in the main event, of course. Middleweights going for more than just a win. Whoever wins this could well be in line for a title shot at 185 pounds. Number 2 ranked Nassourdine Imavov of France taking on number 7 ranked Caio Borralho of Brazil. That is an absolute cracker. That is your main card for UFC Fight Night in Paris. Just to quickly run you through the prelims. William Gomis takes on Poland's Robert Ruszala at featherweight. Ruszala, a very, very talented fighter coming out of Poland, looking to make his UFC debut, I believe, against William Gomis in the featured preliminary card bout of the evening. Umar Sy of France, a light heavyweight who I am particularly high on, taking on Brenson Ribeiro of Brazil. I think that's a fight Umar Sy will be very confident of winning. A heavyweight fight, and this is one that I'm surprised isn't on the main card. I guess it's due to a lack of sort of French connection. Marcin Tybura ranks 7th in the UFC heavyweight division, taking on former PFL heavyweight champion Ante Delija um, at heavyweight, and that is a big fight. I really do think that is a big fight. Ante coming in, he's another one who comes from that same training camp with Tom Aspinall. He would have been training alongside Modestas Bukauskas in preparation for this event, and if he wins, he's in the mix at heavyweight, and they might have to start having some awkward conversations in the gym if he continues doing well. But Marcin Tybura has turned back many a heavyweight prospect during his career. He is perennially underestimated. And even though I think Ante Delija has what it takes to win this fight, I would not be in the least surprised if Marcin Tybura pulls out the victory again here. He's just solid everywhere, you know. He might not be spectacular anywhere, but he's really good everywhere. And you know, he underestimate Marcin Tybura at your peril. But Ante Delija from Croatia, and a former protege of the great Mirko Krokop, looking to make Croatian heavyweights great again, I suppose. Looking to move his way up the UFC heavyweight division with an instant win in the top 10 on his Octagon debut. Surprised that's not on the main card, but that is an absolutely superb fight. On the prelims, we have, I've got it listed, Fares Ziam versus Caio Fernandez, but I believe Fares Ziam may have had to pull out of that fight. So unfortunately, I believe he's had some sad personal news in his family, and we wish him well. And I hope that he's able to get through that difficult time. It's always difficult when you go through difficulty with family and bad news in the family. So we wish him all the best, and we hopefully will see him later on. His bout against Caio Fernandez, I assume has been taken off the card, so we'll have to see. But as far as I'm aware, Fares Ziam off the fight card this weekend. Sad news for him. At welterweights, England's Sam Patterson, super talented Sam Patterson, taking on Trey Waters. That's a good fight for him at 170 pounds. At middleweight, the evergreen and always rock solid Brad Tavares taking on Poland's Robert Bryczek. That'll be a fun one at 185 pounds. That could turn into a real dogfight on the prelims. And speaking of dogfights, probably the ultimate dogfighter in the UFC, Andreas Gustafsson of Sweden, taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. That's right, isn't it? Rinat Fakhretdinov, yeah. At welterweight, Gustafsson is just a mauler. I know there's another Gustafsson who went by the name of the Mauler, Alex Gustafsson, the former UFC light heavyweight title challenger. But Andreas, no relation, don't ask him. He really is a mauler. He really does go in there, and he's in your face from minute one. If the octagon was about like a third of the size, it would not affect his fighting style at all. It would actually make it easier for him. He just loves to just close the distance and just be horrible, just get in your face and grind away, whether it be with elbows, knees, punches, whatever it is, take you down, ground and pound. He's just a nasty opponent to try and deal with. And Rinat Fakhretdinov, who's got knockouts and submissions on his record, he's going to need to find a way to keep his distance and make his strikes count against a guy who is just relentless. So that one could get lively in a hurry. And kicking off the night, Sean O'Bannon from Ireland taking on Sam Hughes from the United States. At strawweight, they will kick off the action at the Accor Arena. 8 p.m. start, I believe, for the main card. 5 p.m. start in the UK for the prelims. So we're actually getting some fights at a decent time, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice. And I also know there's few complaints from the States either. When we get these European cards and people are watching fights earlier in the day, they love it stateside. Nice Saturday afternoon fights or Saturday late morning fights if you're on the West Coast in the US. I haven't heard too many complaints from fight fans in the US. So let's see how it all goes. But Paris, the other thing, the arena will be packed. The arena will be loud. The atmosphere will be phenomenal. And it will probably leave us wondering why they don't come to France 2, 3, 4 times a year. But this should be a good one. We've got lots of French fighters and French-speaking fighters on the card. We've got Imavov and Saint-Denis representing Le Tricolore at the very top of the fight card. You've got Belgium's Borralho Oki and Losine Keita of just up the road in Belgium, French-speaking nation. They're on the main card as well. Axel Sola representing France as well on that main card. William Gomis and Umar Sy are on the prelims representing France as well. So lots for the local fight fans to get excited about. It should mean that the atmosphere is great throughout the fight card. It should be a cracker of a night, and early fight nights always go down well on this side of the pond. It means we're not staying up until stupid o'clock in the morning. It should be a lot of fun. That is your preview for UFC Fight Night Paris. Imavov versus Borralho. Who's your money on? Hit us up on social media. Let us know who you're backing and let us know which fight on the card you're particularly looking forward to. You can find me on the socials at Simon Head Sport across all platforms. You can find RDX Sports at RDX Sports on X and at RDX_sports on Instagram. But most importantly of all, hit the like button on this here video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you never miss an episode of the RDX Sports podcast. Really looking forward to the fights from the Accor Arena in Paris this weekend. I won't be there in person, unfortunately, but I will be watching from here in the UK. And it should be an absolutely brilliant night of fights at a decent time. Who can complain about that? That's going to be great fun. But by the end of fight night, we may well know who the next contender in the middleweight division is. Will it be Nassourdine Imavov? Will it be Caio Borralho? Or could we potentially still be waiting for that Rainier Garrida Anthony Hernandez fight a little bit further down the line? We shall see. Enjoy the fights, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll speak to you